Oh, Mr. Porter, are you still with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, I know you're mad. I got one question before I vote. You had said that the reason why you didn't come back was because your granddaughter got shot. Three of them got shot. One of them was alive. What's going on with that?
That was part of a story that I made up out of fear. Going
Okay.
to prison. That actually didn't happen. I
Okay.
told
Thank you for
I
your honesty.
yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that.
I was afraid of coming back to prison, and I was
It's okay.
desperate. I didn't know what to do,
It's
and
okay. I got it.
that's the
Thank you.
story I made up. But this is the truth here. This is
Gotcha.
the truth here.
Let me.
We are taking a blast to the past for a 2020 parole revocation hearing for a man who had just gotten out after serving 20 years for stealing about $350 as a habitual offender. Listen to the wise words of Mr. Mirabella, because afterwards we are going to take a spaceship to the future, March 20th at the time of this recording, 2024, and watch another revocation hearing. But with that, let's jump in.
Here we go. Rule 3. You failed to report to Louisiana Probation and Parole and failed to report a valid address. You were released back to Louisiana from Texas and ordered to report to Baton Rouge District Office, but failed to report. Louisiana Probation and Parole issued a warrant for absconding supervision. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
All right, number 4, you failed to refrain from criminal conduct and was arrested on 6/15/2021 by New Orleans Police Department and charged with theft. You are also booked on Louisiana's parole warrant for absconding supervision. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Number 10, you failed to pay parole board ordered supervision fees and are currently $371 in arrears. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
All right. Well, tell me why. If you're not guilty with everything, tell me why you're here. Tell me the first one. You failed to report. Tell me about that.
I was afraid because I became sick, became ill last year, prior to my release from prison. I had the virus, and I was scared. I really didn't know what to do. I mean, I screwed up, and I understand that. But the decision that I chose to make, I realized now it was the wrong decision. I need help. I need help desperately. I need professional help.
What you need help? Tell me
I
what kind of help you need.
I realized that now I need help for my drug addiction. I'm addicted to heroin. Excuse me. I tried to deal with this problem all along by myself, because one of the things I was ashamed of, I didn't want to bring this burden up on my family again. I was clean for 20 years, 20 plus years. I only became real addicted after I became sick last year with the virus. And the purpose for me engaging in the activity of using drugs, it was a way for me, at least I felt at the time, to escape the reality of what I was going through. That people was dying around me left and right, and I know the severity of this virus, and I felt like, oh my God, is it me next? I mean, I'm right at the door finally after 20 years, and now I become ill like this. I get sick. I didn't know what to do, and I chose that, and I realized that was the wrong choice. But what I'm asking the board now to understand, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just being open and honest with you. I lied. I shouldn't have did that. I apologize for that. But all of this was out of fear of going back to prison. I need help. This is the truth. This is the reality.
Well,
right now,
that's good. But you just told me today you're not guilty to Rule 3, and now you're telling me that you really are kind of guilty to Rule 3 because you just didn't show up because you were using drugs. Isn't that what you're saying right now?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying.
So
I misinterpreted what you was asking me, but that's what I'm saying right now.
And how long had you been out of jail?
Since September, from September last year to June of this year.
And how long did you get out and you started using heroin? I know you said you got sick not too long.
Yeah,
How
no,
long?
I started using the heroin right before I come home last year. I came home in September last year, right after I made the parole, right after I was granted parole. That's
How
when
long did you spend in jail?
20 years, sir, from December 2000 to September of last year. September
Did you
17th
ever
of last year.
receive any type of drug treatment?
No, sir, but I took drug substance abuse when I was in prison, and I completed that was back in 05. And I have a history with drugs from date all the way back to 1987.
Right. So you started using right before you got out of jail, is what you say?
Yes, sir. That's when I relapsed. I relapsed out of fear because I didn't know what to do. I was just trying to escape the reality of what I was going through. I mean, I've never experienced nothing like this. I'm on the verge of, fighting for my life.
How long you been in jail right? How long you been in jail right now?
6 months, sir. Since June the 16th.
Are you clean now?
Yes, sir, I am.
I mean, you detoxed yourself? I mean, what happened?
Well, I mean, I haven't had any drugs since I've been incarcerated since June, but the reality, I don't believe I'm truly past it yet. I believe I need professional help. And that's what I'm asking the board. Could you please take in consideration of recommending me some sort of help? Because, I mean, me going back to prison on a violation wouldn't solve my problem, because if 20 years of incarceration didn't solve it, I know another year or two wouldn't. I need professional help, and I'm seeking and throwing myself at the mercy of the board and asking that you take that in consideration.
You're right. That's look. Hey, look. I appreciate your honesty. You got a drug problem. There's a lot of things you definitely need to
Right.
figure out. That's for sure. I mean, that is definitely a problem.
Yeah.
So
Can I say one
tell
more?
me about so tell me, you're in your you said not guilty to your fees. So that means that you pay your fees are paid up?
Well, no, sir. I'm disabled. I'm currently disabled, and I haven't started getting my disability yet. So I mean, I have no way of paying it.
When you were out there, though, you didn't get disability when you were out there?
No, sir, because it was a waiting process. See, I was in Texas at first. I mean, as we know, I was in Dallas. Okay, my sister filed it for me, but before the process could actually go through, I came back down to Louisiana.
That's right.
So now I have to go through the process of reapplying all over again.
And so what about the number 4? What about getting arrested? Tell me about that. If you're gonna be honest, times to be honest.
I'm being honest
time to be now.
Yes, I am.
Tell me about the drug problem. Tell me about the arrest.
Okay, now the arrest. The night of the arrest, I was downtown. I was in the quarters. My phone had went dead on me. I went into.
Had you been using that night?
What? Drugs?
Drugs, yes.
Yes, sir, I had.
Okay.
Okay, and my phone went dead on me, so I needed a way to get home. I didn't have no way to get home, so I stopped into the bar in the quarters to ask if they have a way that I could charge my phone for about 20 minutes so I could call my sister to come down and get me. He said, sure. So he told me where to go at. He said they have a stool with 2 phones on it already charging. You could use one of those chargers if it fits your phone. I went around there to try to charge my phone. The other guy come out the back. Hey, guy, what are you doing? And I told him, I said, I was giving permission to try to charge my phone because my phone went dead on me. He said, no, I see you taking my phone. So he called the officers in there about the situation. So when they come in there, they were asking questions. They was asking me who I were. By me knowing that I was already probably wanted for the absconding, I failed to give them my real identity. Okay, I lied about who I were because I felt that if I told them who I were, they would see that there was a warrant and I would come to jail. That is the truth. But ultimately what happened was when I gave them some information on my family, I have a baby sister who works for the sheriff's office. They called her and she identified who I were. And that's when, once they ran that in, then they seen why I had the warrant. And then I came, they brought me to jail. And I've been in here ever since. That's the truth.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, you don't think you might have accidentally picked up that guy's phone? You were high. You telling me you were high. You don't think you accidentally picked that guy's phone up? You
No,
got your phone?
No, because what happened was they wind up dropping the charges. They threw the charges out once they saw.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I understand, you know,
Yeah.
you got arrested, you on drugs, you're not,
Yeah.
you know, you're not reporting. I mean, not, you know, all those things.
Yeah, I was
understand.
aware of what I was doing that night. I wasn't out of it, you know, to where I didn't know what I was doing. But that's the truth. That's what actually happened.
So what is your plans? Again, we'll speak to some folks here. What are your plans? You want to go back to Texas? I mean, obviously you got to get some kind of drug problem under control, because I mean, you're not, I can't let you out and go use heroin.
Well, I know that. Well, no, I'm not. My intention is not to go back to Texas. I want to stay here because this is home. This is where I'm from. But I would like to ask that you take in consideration the placement, some type of drug program here, if it's possible, to get me the necessary help that I actually need. I've been needing for so long, because like I said, after 20 years of incarceration didn't do the trick. I know me going back to prison ain't gonna do it. That's not the answer. We need to try. I need to try something new. I mean, we need to try something new. I need help, and that's what I'm reaching out to you guys for, to help me. Help me. Help me.
All right.
Please.
All right. Mr. Marabella, you have a question, Mr. Marabella?
Yes, I just have one or two questions. Mr. Porter, in the 20 years you were in prison, did you do any substance abuse programs? Did you get any kind of treatment while you were in prison?
Well, I just did. I took up substance abuse and I completed that program. In fact, I have certificates.
Let me
back
slow you
that
down.
up. Yeah.
You took a class, or did you actually go to a program? Did you go to like Steve Hoyle? Did you go to Blue Walters or something like that?
No, sir. No, they didn't have anything like that available for me, but I took the class
Well,
though.
now it is available. Don't
Yes,
you
sir.
believe that's something you can benefit from?
Yes, sir. And that's what I'm seeking, professional help.
Would you be willing, as a condition of to go through our DOC program? It's a significant program. It's a 9-month program. It's Steve Hall program. Would you be willing to go through that program to be able to be released at some point later?
I mean, if that's my only alternative, but I was thinking more of like an inpatient.
I know what
program.
you're thinking, but I ain't thinking that.
Okay, yes, sir. I mean, I don't have the last word here, the last say so, but I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it would take to get me the necessary help that I need.
Mr. Porter, I just want to tell you, I was a judge for 14 years. I ran a drug court, and you sound like every addict that has ever come through the drug court.
Okay.
You need some help. You're asking
Yes,
for help.
Yes, sir.
I give you help.
Okay.
I feel I would be doing you a misservice if I let you out on your own devices to try to get some treatment, when you're telling us you were doing heroin after 20 years in prison, realizing you're about to get out of jail. Now, if you're willing to do that program, I'm willing to vote that way to let you do it. But if you don't want to do it, that's up to you. So that's all the questions I have, Mr. Kelsey. I'll listen to everyone else, and then I'll make my decision as it comes up.
Ms. Wise?
Good morning, Mr. Porter.
Good morning.
Are you a sex offender?
Yes, ma'am. It was over 30-something years ago. Yes, ma'am. I have a sex.
Are you? So how are you required to register at this point?
I'm not, because I registered once before.
Okay.
If I'd have stayed in Texas, I would have had to register all over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just wasn't clear to me what's in the. So what were you in jail for all those years?
Theft.
Okay.
Theft of goods. Yeah, theft of goods.
Goods. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you see, that's why they were so concerning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had 20. I was sentenced to 25 years for theft of goods, and I served 20 years of the 25 before I came home.
That's why it was so concerning, that incident with the cell phone.
Oh, okay.
Because of your history up there.
Yes, ma'am.
you have to, step back on things
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now we'll hear from Miss Cynthia. Now you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can.
Okay, I'm the oldest sister of Johnny, and I've listened to everything you've had to say, sir. And I'm not excusing anything that has been said, and as far as Johnny's drug addiction, but I do believe, and I honestly don't think that Johnny would be, regardless to the fact of the fact that he did this drug when he came home. I truly and honestly believe, and I can say from my heart, because of what I've experienced with him since he's been home and before this incident happened, that he has honestly learned his lesson and he is ready for a change. And I don't think he's going to go back to this drug, because if he can get what hasn't been offered to him, was some kind of resources for help with some kind of treatment, like going to a facility, like the investigators and the lady that has been helping us to send him to, getting that type of help, and then being able to come home and being able to get himself self-sufficient, getting his income started, and being able to be self-sufficient again. I know for a fact Johnny would do good, because he has family support, being it myself. I live here in Texas. I'm the one he was paroled to after 20 years. And he just wanted to be home with family. He ended up going to a halfway house after having to be leaving me. And it was really difficult for him, and some things had to transpire for him. And I know with this change, I promise you that he has the family support behind him that can help him through this situation. We can't house him, but we have the family support behind him now, because there weren't the resources now available to help him, and we didn't know how to support him like we know how now. So we have sisters at home that can help him to keep him fed, to keep him going to his doctor's appointments. And I've been the one that's been with him. We've been best friends since little, going to his doctor's appointments and physical therapy and everything he's been through, these milestones in his life. Him and I have always been together and inseparable. So there's nothing that I won't do and to be there to support him.
Yes, ma'am.
If we have the resources that's available now that we didn't have before. So now that these things that we know are available now, he has the family support. We just needed the resources.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Ma'am.
now that they are available, I promise you, if you could guys just let him come home, I promise you he has the support now that can help keep him off those things. I travel often
Yes,
to
ma'am.
Texas,
Thank
to
you for
New
your
Orleans.
comments. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I promise.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. All right. Now we hear from Miss Mallory.
Good morning. My name is Mallory Manfredini. I'm an investigator with Orleans Public Defender's Office. I'm here in lieu of client advocate Noam Lynn, who is out sick, but I'm hoping to answer some of your questions about Mr. Porter's reentry plan and explain the plan that we have in place for him. So our plan will provide substance use treatment, a stable living environment, and facilitate community support for Mr. Porter upon his release. Based on our conversations with Mr. Porter and getting to know him, we know that he just needs a chance at stability, and he will be able to achieve his goals and live an active life in the community. When I first met Mr. Porter, he immediately showed the same interest he's showing today, which is to get help and enroll in a LARC recovery program, which is in Marion, Louisiana. LARC Recovery is a drug and alcohol addiction treatment center. We have talked with LARC, and there's already a bed reserved for Mr. Porter, and they can get him from the Orleans Justice Center on the 10th of December and bring him to the facility to start treatment. Once there, the client advocate, Noah, that I mentioned, will be in contact with LARC and get in touch with his case manager so that we can keep tabs on his treatment and see how Mr. Porter is doing. When 2 weeks remain of that program, Noah will work with the case manager at LARC to begin applying for sober living and transitional housing for continued support to Mr. Porter. Mr. Porter, once he's released, OPD will assist in applying for SSI based on his reliance of a wheelchair for his mobility. And this income will be a great benefit for Mr. Porter's efforts to reintegrate into the community and help him qualify for additional services. Mr. Porter has the full support of OPD and his family as we help him navigate the various treatment programs that we will enroll him with, as well as any other legal requirements. We at OPD and his family believe in this plan wholeheartedly and his full reentry into the community. We hope this plan explains more of what we hope for Mr. Porter's life upon his release. I'm happy to offer any further clarification if you have any questions for me.
Is Mr. Porter in a wheelchair, you said, or is that he just uses that?
Yeah.
What's your diagnosis, Mr. Porter? What's going on?
I have what you call osteogenesis imperfecta. That's soft bones from birth. I have rods in
How long have you been in a wheelchair?
all my life, in and out all my life.
And this program, how long is this program, Ms. Mallory?
The LARC program would be a 28-day treatment program that we already have reserved for him.
And I appreciate it. And it sounds like you guys are really have together, but I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I know what he can get Steve Hall for 9 months. He's a heroin user. Listen, if he has to wait 9 months and then you can contact with him and provide that plan moving forward, for me, I'm just speaking for me, I'd feel a lot better about this situation. I've seen a lot of folks go through 28-day programs, and not that they're not good, but we're talking about a 9-month intensive substance abuse program. And if he does do the 9 months, you would be readily available at the end of that 9 months to do exactly what you're doing, correct?
Correct. We also, I want to make it clear that after that treatment, it's not like it would just stop. We also have contact with other services as well as like First 72 Plus and MHSD, which are other treatment programs.
Right.
It wouldn't just stop right after the 28.
Right, but you're going to be following him regardless. When he gets ready to go, you're going to be boots on the ground, ready to take him, right? Regardless if he comes out tomorrow, if he comes out in 9 months, correct?
Right, but we believe in his full reentry.
No, I appreciate it. Sure, I appreciate what you're saying, and it definitely sounds like y'all working towards it. Mr. Porter, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir. Let me just say this. 28 days or 9 months. Neither is guaranteed. Okay. But I believe that 28 days would be just as much help as 9 months, if not more. Why? Simply because I've been away from my family, my loved ones for 20 years. 20 years, you know what that's like? That's 2 decades. Yes, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Out for a little while, and
Yes,
then
sir.
you ended up coming right back.
But I also explained to you what led me to relapse. I also explained that.
I
All right.
appreciate it. Our job.
Had I not went through that, because
I appreciate it. Listen, our job is to help you stay out. We don't want to see you coming back.
And I can give you my word.
We get
That's all I have.
We get
All I
everybody's
have.
word every day.
Okay,
we
well,
get everybody's word every day. Okay, go ahead. Finish up, and then we'll talk to your attorney. Go ahead and put him back on not on mute. Let him speak. He's on mute. Maybe he hit.
You're on mute, Mr. Porter.
Yeah, maybe he hit.
I don't know if you can control that or not.
There we go. Maybe he hits. Okay, go ahead. Finish up your statement.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can
We're gonna talk to
understand.
your attorney.
I can understand exactly where you're coming from, but all I have left in this world that has any significant meaning is my word. If I tell you by the grace of God, He's know I'm not lying. If I tell you, please, if you would just take this chance, take a chance on me for once, and let's just see if those 28 days would do the trick. I believe it will. If I didn't believe it was possible, I wouldn't have voluntarily came to you and asked for the help. I'm coming to you. I'm doing something that I've been afraid to do before. I'm coming forth with it now. You know why? Because God has put it on my heart that this is the right thing to do. I need to do something right for a change. And the right thing to do is to be honest with you guys.
Sure.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
I appreciate
That's
your
all I'm
honesty.
trying to do.
Sounds good. All right, let's hear from your attorney. Let's see what she's got to say, and then we'll all get together and figure it out. Miss Catherine.
Hi, yes, Catherine Reeder on behalf of Johnny Porter. I think Mr. Porter has gone over the basics of his previous incarceration. After 20 years of sobriety, prior to being released, he did relapse. What Mr. Porter hasn't gotten to get into great detail and what documents that are not in front of you are the many attempts that Mr. Porter tried to do to better himself while he was incarcerated. We were able to receive documentation, certifications of cases regarding basic parenting educational classes, substance abuse education, living in balance, and 100 hours of pre-release, as well as CARO's Inside Weekend program, which is a religious program. So he's consistently tried to better himself. But the help that he needed was not anywhere to be found while he was incarcerated. Now, since Mr. Porter's been incarcerated, he was arrested in June of 2021. He's actually continued to seek help since he's been back there. And in particular, he's been attending Metropolitan Behavioral Health group counseling classes. We were able to make contact with Terry Perriman, who's a peer sports specialist who led these classes, who said he's in good standing for attendance and participation, and that upon release that he will have access to MHSD's resources for reentry programs. These are programs that help people deal with addiction, issues of addiction, and how to succeed once he is released. These have been weekly programs that he's continued to go forward with. Mr. Porter's perseverance is inspiring. He has consistently tried to better himself, but unfortunately, the resources and the support have not always been there. He has been afraid to admit to his addictions. But today, Mr. Porter has gained the strength to be honest with the board and with us, with his family. And we are asking that parole be reinstituted. It's not easy to admit when you need help, but Mr. Porter is here admitting to his faults and asking for the help that he's so desperately needed. We would ask that his parole not be revoked. Further, I would just note in regards, which I believe you have the paperwork for the allegation of the criminal activity, Mr. Porter, while was arrested in June, was not brought to court again until November. And upon his first appearance being brought back to court, those cases were immediately dismissed upon his appearance in front of the judges. So we also ask you to take that into consideration. We understand that Mr. Porter has made mistakes, but we do believe that the plan that we have devised will ensure a successful reentry, a chance that he hadn't had before without these proper resources, but he now has the support of us. He has the support of his family, and he now understands that the parole board or his parole officer is the person he needs to keep in contact when fear emerges. It's not to shrink away, but to be honest and be forward so he can continue to live his life on the outside, a place that he has not, that he has been away from his family for quite some period of time.
All right, thank you. All right, panel prepared to vote? Thank you, Ms. Reeder. Appreciate the information. I appreciate, look, all the folks that have been here today, all the resources. But at the end of the day, I can either keep him in jail for 2025, or I can do what I know has been successful in us doing this for year after year after year. I'm sure your program is outstanding. I'm sure it's great. But I do know the success with Steve Hall substance abuse program. And the ones that want to get better, they're the ones thanking us for letting them go there. I would vote in lieu of revocation to send him to Steve Hall substance abuse program, 9-month intensive program. He'll get mental health. He'll get physical evaluations. And he'll get all the substance abuse. Don't just fall into heroin use And I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've seen somebody go for 20 days, 30 days using heroin and they're back in front of us. I have to do what I think is best for him. I don't think keeping him in jail is the answer. Absolutely not. No question. I agree with that. And I agree with that, Mr. Porter. Keeping you in jail is not going to do any of us any good. But I do know that the Steve Hall Substance Abuse Program is what you need. That's what you need. And look, you can be sour about it and you can be mad about it, or you can go sit on the front row, as Ms. Wise says, and learn and put your heart and soul into it, because you'll come out a better person and you'll be able to function. You're still going to have the resources available to you, whether it's 9 months, whether it's 6 months, whatever. If you don't get any better, it don't matter. And we'll see you back. We'll hear the same story. But I do believe you're ready to get better. And if you do, you'll take this favor, this offering that we have for you. So in lieu of revocation, I vote to send you to Steve Hall Substance Abuse Programs for 9 months. After successful completion, you'll be released to Ms. Manfredini for the resources that they have. Of course, your attorney's involved. You'll have a curfew from 9 p to 6 a. You'll have a follow-up treatment care with Steve Hall. They'll get with you guys. I know you'll be involved in the first 72. A lot of resources that you have access to. So those are things that you can get involved. That's my vote for today. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Porter, you're a drug addict. I mean, you've admitted that. We know that. Everybody knows that. The first step is to admit you got a problem and want some help. You're there. And as you sit there today, I can believe that you think we're crazy.
No.
That you can do it. You know you can do it. But I'm going to tell you, my experience tells me in 14 years sitting on a drug court, every drug addict believes that when they're sober. I am shocked, frankly, that you spent 20 years in prison and then began to use heroin soon as you got out. That tells me you probably were using it while you were in prison, because my experience tells me people who've been off of heroin for years and they go back and they use the same amount they were used to using, they're dead. And the good news is you're not dead. You need long-term treatment. You have a disease. It's not a choice. And I believe you when you say, my word is I'm not going to do that. I believe you believe that when you tell me that. But it's an addict talking. You have a disease. And unless you get some treatment for that disease, and look, 28-day programs are good. They help a lot of people, but they're not as good as Steve Hall for a hardcore drug addict. Now, as Mr. Kelsey pointed out, you can look down and be believe that you're being treated unfairly, or you can look up and say, look, in 9 months, I'm going to hit the streets. I'm going to have some tools to be able to deal with my addiction, and I've got the support of my family. Your family can't do it. You have to do it. I'm willing, as I stated earlier to you, not to revoke, conditioned upon your completing that program. Now, if you get in that program and you using drugs or you get kicked out of that program, you'll be in prison till 2025. That's your choice. But that's my vote today as well. So good luck to you. I hope you take advantage of that.
Ms. Wise.
Mr. Porter, are you still with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, I know you're mad. I got one question before I vote. You had said that the reason why you didn't come back was because your granddaughter got shot. Three of them got shot. One of them was alive. What's going on with that?
That was part of a story that I made up out of fear.
Okay.
Going to prison. That actually didn't happen.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that.
I was afraid of coming back to prison, and I was desperate. I didn't know what to do.
It's okay.
That's the story I made up. But this is the truth here.
Gotcha.
This is the truth here.
I'm voting. You've answered my question. I'm voting now. Thank you for the answer, because I was just concerned about the granddaughters.
Yes,
okay. All I ask you to do is trust the wisdom of this board. Just trust the wisdom of this board. I concur with my colleagues. My vote is the same. Do not revoke conditional. You complete the 9-month program, and then I urge you to stay on the front row. And if you want something different in life, you got to do something different. Thank you.
All right, yeah, 3 votes in lieu of revocation to report Steve Hall substance abuse program for 9 months. That's successful completion. You have a follow-up care with them. You'll be with you have your resources, and you will have a curfew from 9 p to 6 a. So good luck to you. And we'll adjourn at 10:09. Orleans.
This was an interesting case and a little bit of foreshadowing. I think Mr. Mirabella may have had a point, another one of his epic, I think, kind of mic drops. And Miss Wise may have had a point too. Now, I'm a little confused about this hearing. I thought that he came in saying he had a problem, but then he became really disappointed when they recommended Steve Hoyle. Maybe he thought they would just send in programs on the outside. Maybe it was all just kind of a understanding the system and thinking that asking for help would make sure he's not revoked. But it was not a glass half full for him at all. Now, he was given a 20-year sentence January 11th, right? He was charged with a bill of information, a theft of goods between $100 and $500. So at most $500. He got a 20-year sentence. But the DA was not happy with that. So they actually filed a multiple bill, and they found him guilty to be a 4th-time felony offender, 4th. So they set aside the original sentence of 20 and resentenced him to 25. Now, if he wasn't a sex offender, which Miss Wise had alluded to, I would probably be pretty mad. But he's a level 3 sex offender, and that's never good. Although I don't have any information to share on that. The facts of this case are not an issue. This is his appeal. Isn't it funny though? The DA is like, no, 20 years isn't enough. We're gonna get him for 25 years. We need to tack on 5 years. The facts of this case are not an issue. At trial, the state's 2 witnesses were Macy's department store security officer and a police officer. They testified regarding the involvement in Mr. Porter's arrest for shoplifting 2 boxes of silverware for a total value of $260. 25-year sentence for $260. From the housewares department, Mr. Zeno testified that he personally observed Mr. Porter conceal the silverware in a clear plastic bag and then exit his store without paying for it. He also testified that because of Mr. Zeno's height, he recognized Mr. Porter as the individual that he had apprehended a few weeks earlier for shoplifting in the store. Again, on the advice of counsel, Mr. Porter testified on his own behalf against the advice of counsel. He testified on his own behalf at trial. He claimed to be innocent of the offense. He based his defense on the fact that a security officer was unable to produce surveillance camera videotape of him committing the alleged offense. Mr. Porter admitted being arrested a while back at Macy's for shoplifting. Indeed, he testified that he was aware of how Macy's video surveillance camera operated on that prior occasion. He was shown how he was caught on tape shoplifting. Mr. Porter also admitted that he had 3 prior felony convictions. So he appealed, saying that it was excessive. They're going to list all the reasons that it's not excessive. Let's see. Mr. Porter further emphasizes that he has physical disability, a bone disease that occasionally requires him to use a wheelchair, for which he receives disability benefits, and claims that his disability has forced him into poverty and that his poverty has forced him into crime. We find this argument unpersuasive. Mr. Porter's final argument is that he's a law-abiding citizen since his last offense in 1993. The record, however, reflects on the contrary. Mr. Porter admitted at trial that he was arrested for shoplifting Macy's during the interview. Moreover, he was sentenced to 5 years for his 1993 offense and apparently was incarcerated for the majority of the period that he claims to be a law-abiding citizen. It's like, no, I'm a law-abiding citizen. We're like, you were in prison during that period of time. Given that Mr. Porter's sentence of 25 years was on the low end of the sentencing range, it could have been a life sentence, and we have seen that. That is true. And given the facts of this case, we cannot say that the trial court imposed an excessive sentence. So he served 20 years of his 25. He ended up serving 20. I guess he got paroled. Right, he did get paroled. That's why he's having a revocation hearing. Like again, it is if he wasn't a sex offender, I think I'd be pretty upset. But ignoring that aspect to lock someone up for 25 years just because they're constantly shoplifting, it just doesn't make sense to me. And he has a drug problem. But now what do you think is going to happen? Do you think he's going to make it? Do you think Steve Hoyle's going to finally break his lifetime habit? Let's find out.
All right, there you go. Now we can hear you. So, Mr. Porter, why don't you tell us again, what's your name and DOC number?
My name is Johnny Porter. My DOC number is 2637.
Okay, and you have counsel with you this afternoon. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, and good afternoon. My name is Sarah Wood, and I'm with the Orleans Public Defender's Office. I've had the pleasure of representing Mr. Porter for the past 6.5 months now.
Okay, good deal. And we also have, again, Mr. Brian Lars, also with the Public Defender's Office. Mr. Porter, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole. I'm going to read the allegations against you, and then you'll enter a plea of guilty or, guilty or not guilty. Mrs. Ledoux will have start the questioning. When we finish with our questions, we'd like to hear from Mr. Lars. I'm sure he's worked out a plan for you. You can make a statement before we turn it over to Ms. Wood for her presentation. Okay, ready? All right, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 3. And it says, you failed to provide New Orleans Police probation and parole with a valid address. You were last seen April 28, 2023 at the Low Barrier Shelter. You then left the shelter and your whereabouts were unknown. You were arrested August 21st, 2023 by the Houston Police Department on the parole warrant and were extradited back to Orleans Parish Prison and booked for failure to register as a sex offender. How do you plead to violation of condition number 3?
Guilty with statement.
Okay, guilty with a statement. Condition number 4, you failed to report to the New Orleans Police Department for periodic sex offender registration and notification purposes. New Orleans Police Department booked you on September 5th, 2023 for failure to register as a sex offender. On November 29th, 2023, you pled guilty to the amended charge of sex offender, failed to pay annual registration fees, and sentenced to 6 months in the Orleans Parish Prison. 3 months was suspended and 3 months at the Orleans Parish Prison. And then you had 1 year of inactive probation. So how do you plead the violation of condition number 4?
Guilty with the statement.
Okay, thank you. Condition number 9, you failed to provide New Orleans probation and parole with a valid address and your whereabouts were unknown until your new arrest. How do you plead to violation to condition number 9?
I am as well guilty with the statement.
Okay, good. Lastly, condition number 10, you failed to pay the parole supervision fees and you're currently $1,953 in arrears. How do you plead to violating condition number 10?
Guilty with the statement as well.
Thank you. Would you answer Mrs. Ledoux, please?
Good afternoon, Mr. Porter. Why don't we go ahead and let you make your statement about all of these, because you have a story I think you want to say, and let's go ahead and take care of that first before I ask any questions.
Okay, thank you. With all due respect, I'm not here to make excuses. I'm, in fact, willing to take full responsibility for my actions. I realized that I violated the conditions of my parole. The fact and truth of the matter is that this is the thing that led me to that point. I was in an automobile accident last year. And throughout the results from the automobile accident, I sustained a broken left hip. I have a rod and screws in my hip. It was broken. And they were supposed to schedule me for surgery. But they didn't admit me in the hospital. They saw me, examined me, and they released me. They wasn't giving me anything to help me with the pain. So eventually I ended up turning to illegal drugs, which I know is wrong. I understand that. But that was the only source of relief I could get. In an event, when that happened, I ended up unfortunately becoming real addicted to the heroin. All right. And now I'm dealing with two issues. My broken hip and my addiction. So when I did try to seek help for my addiction, I made an attempt to go to several inpatient or drug rehabilitation programs here, but I was turned away for various reasons. Some wouldn't accept me because of my me being in a wheelchair. Others wouldn't accept me because I'm an ex-sex offender. Others wouldn't accept me because I'm on paper, on parole. All right. So I didn't know what else to do. And I was afraid that this is the truth. I was afraid if I would call my PO and told him what I was dealing with, he was gonna lock me back up. I had just come home from serving a 20-year sentence for a simple theft. All right, I did 20 years, day for day. But I've been dealing with this addiction since I was 16 or 17, and I'm 59 now. So we're looking at 40-something years on and on. I was doing relatively well until I got into this car accident, like I said. And once I realized that I was addicted again, now I got to deal with this problem. So I didn't know what else to do. And by me being turned away from several places that I tried to seek help, the only other alternative I could think of at the time was to try to seek help elsewhere. So that led me to leave town. And I left and went to Houston. While I was in Houston, I was forced to go to the hospitals up there. They had admitted me. They was about to perform the operation. But when they ran my name, it seemed that I was from Louisiana and that they had a warrant out for me. So that's I get to be expedited back here. All right. Like I said, I've been dealing with this addiction, and this addiction is so strong. I can't deal with it on my own. What I'm here for, and I'm hoping and praying to God that this is my last stop. I'm willing to throw myself at the mercy of the board and ask that you guys please take into consideration helping me seek the help that I've so rightfully been needing for so long. I need professional drug treatment. It takes a person with more than a lot of courage, and I'm not just saying this for myself. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Most people in my situation wouldn't even have the courage to come forward and ask for help. I am asking for it. No matter however long it takes, whatever it takes, because I do firmly believe that God has more than this for my life. I mean, I don't feel that I have a purpose here, and I don't think my purpose here is to be addicted to drugs and live the rest of my life addicted to drugs. So, like I said, I'm hoping that you guys can help me by recommending some type of program or whatever it may take. And let me stress one last thing. My full term date of my parole is December 27th of 2025. That's the end of next year. Sending me back to prison right now won't solve the problem when we really look at it. Because guess what? That 1 year will pass by so fast, and I'm still be left dealing with having to deal with this problem. I need help, and this is what I'm asking and praying and begging that please, with you guys, somehow please take into consideration what I'm saying and help me get the help that I so rightfully is moment in need. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Porter, when you were at the low barrier shelter, appeared that you were doing well according to your probation officer. I mean, they would go, parole officer, they would go and you were there, they could check on you. Were you using at that time?
No, I wasn't.
So when did you actually start using? When you left the shelter?
No, I started using right before I left the shelter. I had accidents while I was at the shelter, right? I got in car accident while I was at the shelter. That happened like around April, somewhere around there last year, because I left town May the 1st of May 2nd. So I had been dealing with this whole ordeal for like about 3-4 weeks before I left. Probably.
Well, it surprised the shelter staff that you left, that was not what they expected to see. How did you physically get to Houston?
I had got a few handouts, you know, a few dollars from here and there, and I was able to pay for a bus.
Right. You were able to pay for the bus. Okay. Did your leaving the shelter have anything to do with the fact that you were not going to be able to pay for your sex offender registration fees?
No, ma'am, because I hadn't started receiving my disability until the later part of last year anyway. So before I could even make a payment, this happened.
So you failed to register.
Yes, ma'am. See, I was scheduled to go into the sheriff's department, right, and register. But before I could actually go, that's when this happened.
So you got re-addicted to drugs before you went. So you have to get
plan what I should have been doing. Yes, ma'am.
When you say, okay, so you were actually incarcerated in DOC custody, not just a jail. Did you take, I know you took Cage of Rage and pre-release, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You earned 390 days. Did you take any substance abuse classes? That has a small component, I know, in pre-release, but did you take other substance?
I had took Cage of Rage, living in balance, anger management, pre-release, substance abuse, and parents. I had like 6 or 7 certificates.
So you're saying that the return to addiction was because of an automobile accident? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am, because all before the accident, I was clean.
So you were actually granted parole in 2020, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did that accident happen?
The accident happened last year.
So for 3 years you were?
I was great. I was drug free. It just happened last year.
I'll wait to hear from those speaking on your behalf.
All right, Mr. Porter, so how are you dealing with your addiction since you've been incarcerated?
Well, it was giving me what they call Suboxone. That's an opiate. That's only to help subside the pain to a certain degree, but they only give it to you for a certain length of time. Now it has discontinued. But what I need is this other medication that's called I can't think of the name of it, but they only distribute this at the facility. They don't give you that in the local parishes.
Talking about Vivitrol?
No, not that one. It's started with a D. I can't think of the name of it.
Okay,
But
all right, that's okay. Let's, we'd like to hear from Mr. Lars. Mr. Lars?
Yes, good evening again, board. Brian Lars, social worker with the Orleans Public Defender's Office. Ever since Johnny was assigned to my caseload, you know, I've been paying special attention. Really, Johnny has had a very hard life. You know, he grew up in a Melpomene housing project in New Orleans and was exposed to lots of trauma and drugs and all kind of dysfunctional behavior. And it, just as he said, you know, he started using heroin at the age of 16. Not only that, Johnny has a diagnosis of osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a bone disease. He had this. He was born with this disease. As you can see, he uses a wheelchair to ambulate. So he's dealt with pain his entire life. You know, this disease is characterized by fragile or brittle bones, and he's had several bone breaks throughout his life as a young kid. He's dealt with a whole lot. And like you said, he associated, he associated his substance use, to self-medicate things. And he also, let me just say this here, he expressed the embarrassment related to his sex offender history and pain-related issues with his disease for making that inappropriate decision to leave. So those are some very important contributing factors to him absconding. But to me, as a social worker, I look at how the system has kind of failed him, and so I put my very best effort to put some things in place to assist Johnny, because it's really a sad situation. Like you said, he spent 20 years in prison for misdemeanor. He spent 20 years of his life in prison. So one of the main things that I want to address was the substance use. We know that he has to address the substance use in order for anything to get better. So I have referred him to LARC Recovery. It's a program, and you should have correspondence confirming his acceptance into LARC. But also, Johnny is also willing to go to Don Francois, which is a treatment center ran by the Department of Correction, which is a little bit longer stay. He's willing to go the extra mile. And after being released from treatment, I'm making a special attempt. Well, I will be connecting him with a 12-step fellowship where he can attend 90 meetings in 90 days, get an experienced sponsor, and work the 12 steps. I also confirm with staff at the Lowberry shelter that he can return it because he was doing great there. I have other clients who also stay there who are in similar situations as Mr. Porter. So he can return back to Lowberry shelter. I'm also going to make sure that he is referred to primary care doctor to promote good health and well-being. And once he get out, again, I'll be actively case managing Johnny, helping him to get his check reestablished. And I also work with so many people over the past years who are required to register as sex offenders, and have a great relationship with the officers at the NOPD sex offender unit. So, it means a lot to me I want to help him to get his life together. He deserves it. He's 59 years old. And, I've met with him on several occasions at OJC, and I feel that he's very motivated to get his life together and get back on track. And I just want to be a part of that change process. That's all I have. Thank you.
Of course, I just want to, in all due respect, sir, he is a fourth felony offender, so he spent 20 years. It wasn't just a misdemeanor that caused him to spend 20 years in. So,
the last conviction was a misdemeanor conviction.
As a habitual, that's right.
Yeah, and so he was sentenced under that habitual offenders law. So it was just a misdemeanor that promoted the 20 years. It was a death charge of $300 or less.
Doesn't matter.
So let me ask Mr. Porter before we turn it over to Ms. Wood. Mr. Porter, You were, referred by the board, parole board, to the Steve Hoyle program, and they didn't accept you there because of your medical problems. But I think you were referred then to the STAR program at DCI. Did you ever get to go to that program?
What they said was, the Steve Harvey program that they run over at DCI wouldn't accept me because I'm on paper. They don't accept people that's on parole or probation.
Okay, I understand. Okay, all right. Ms. Wood, would you like to do your presentation now?
Yes, I would. And thank you again for taking the time to listen to us today and hear a little bit about Mr. Porter. I am going to echo much of what my colleague, Mr. Lars, has already said along with Mr. Porter. I want to start, though, by talking a little bit about Mr. Porter's perseverance and how he has recognized some of his issues early on and from the get-go has tried to, with his physical limitations, remedy them the best that he can. I can't say this for all of my clients, but I will never forget the first time I met Mr. Porter after he was just booked into the jail here in Orleans Parish. He told me from the get-go, I have a problem with drugs and I need help. And from that day, Mr. Porter has worked with myself and Mr. Lars to come up with a plan to really address that at the root. And I know that you all have a copy of the plan that we submitted, but I think that, you know, this isn't just something that we're presenting in the hopes to avoid a bad outcome. This is really driven by Mr. Porter and his internal recognition that he needs help with his addiction, and that is what we're requesting. As it relates to Mr. Porter's registration, he is required to register as a tier 3, meaning normally he's required to register every 90 days. But because he is unhoused, he actually has to provide additional information every 2 weeks. From the time that Mr. Porter got out of DOC, from the time that this warrant was issued for failing to register, Mr. Porter was fully compliant. He was sober, he was doing everything he needed. He got back on track with his disability. His addiction reared its head again after he was in that accident. And I think with the proper resources, with the proper support, Mr. Porter can remedy that to go on and live a sober and law-abiding life. I think it's quite remarkable that Mr. Porter has been able to keep up with his registration requirements in that 3-year period, because they are much stronger. There's much more that he has to do as a tier 3 and being unhoused, when it's also even more difficult to keep up with that, given that he is wheelchair bound and often struggles with homelessness. Again, Mr. Lars has worked with Mr. Porter to develop a program that not only puts him in an intensive inpatient treatment program, either at LARC or through Don Francois, but our office is committed to working with Mr. Porter in the long term to ensure that he gets continued community support and outpatient treatment once he completes either one of those programs. And given that, we hope that this board will recognize the difficulties that Mr. Porter has, recognize his honesty and seeing his own issues and that he needs help for that, and that this board will give him a chance to ensure he gets the treatment that he needs so he can continue to live that law-abiding, sober life.
Ask you a question, ma'am?
Yeah, of course.
When was the sex offense committed? Do you know?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, do you know about what year it was
I
committed?
have the conviction date, but I don't have like when he was actually charged with it.
I know.
Wait, what he said?
93.
93. Yes.
It
so
looks
he was-
old. I mean, I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it, but I saw where he was incarcerated in
Yeah,
90.
it was
How
it's been over 30 years.
old were you?
I said, it's been over 30 years.
Yeah, I know, but how old were you when you got arrested for that?
I think I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of things.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. I need to know if it's. I want to ask for an executive session. We need to discuss some confidential matters.
Roll call, Cheryl Renowski.
Yes.
Keith Freeman.
I'll second and yes.
Okay, Jerry.
Yes. Okay, we'll be in executive session for just a few moments to discuss confidential matters.
All right.
All right, Mr. Porter, we're back in regular session. Yes, and we are ready to vote, and Mrs. Ledoux will be voting first.
Thank you for being patient with us. We're really truly trying to work out what's absolutely best for you. Mr. Porter, I applaud you and commend you for being where you are and asking for the help you need. And so that's what we're going to be doing. Today, I vote that in lieu of revocation, that you go to a substance abuse program, and it's going to be the state STAR program, State Targeted Response to Opioid Addiction. So we're going to put you in that specific program for substance abuse until they feel like it is time for you to be released.
Okay, what's the name of the program again?
This is drug.
STAR, just remember STAR, ST. Yes, sir, STAR.
And that'll be for a maximum of 6 months.
No more than
That's
6
the most, no more than 6 months.
Okay.
And then the addition would be that you follow with the program wraparound services through the Public Defender's Office.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Freeman.
I agree.
And my vote is also the same, Mr. Porter. Thank you for asking for the help, and we want to get you the help that you know you need.
God bless y'all soul. Oh, y'all don't know how much of a relief this is. I prayed so hard.
All right. Now,
And God answer prayers.
and when you finish with that program, you got to get involved with Mr. Lars and follow that program, okay?
I won't let you guys down. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we wish you well. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I mean, there you have it. It's I felt like Mr. Mirabella kind of hinted to it, and like Miss Wise had the sex offender thing that she brought up before the end of the hearing, and we see him show up, and it's he says it was the car accident. I don't know if he actually had a car accident, but it's, I think, more likely that he's just addicted and maybe has been doing it inside for 20 years. And he kind of came in, it was almost like deja vu. It was almost like the same storyline about an accident and about wanting help and but this time he definitely, what seemed a little different is, or maybe his expectations was about having about wanting to go to the program, versus before he was very upset about being sent to the program. Now, this is not Steve Hoyle, I guess, because they already sent him there. Now, the STAR program, we have seen others go there, and many who go there end up taking that shot that makes it impossible for you to get high. And I wonder if that's what he's going to end up doing. What's it called? The Tramadol shot, something like that. And I think he would think he needs it if he's going to want to be able to finally beat this thing. But it's interesting how he seems to have a lot of support from the different programs, I guess, because he qualifies, having an attorney there, having people to talk on his behalf. I enjoyed the way that Jerry Ledoux is handling these cases so far. From what I've seen from her, I appreciate it. She talks very like a grandmother type, but she's no pushover. She kind of said no, when his attorney brought up that he was there for a misdemeanor charge. She said no, might have been a misdemeanor, but it's because he was a 4th-time felon. And she kind of wanted to push that point and state that point for the record. And it's the bottom line is it was a misdemeanor charge though, but the law was saying it's a 4th-time felon, so we're going to lock you up for 25 years. How do you feel about it? Do you think that he's going to finally get cured? In terms of their options as a parole board, I agree with what they did regardless. It's, you know, put them in a program, a full-term program that will hopefully help him, but it's better than just sending him back to prison. And I think that he's probably only backing a few years. Remember, it was a 25-year sentence that he served a flat 20 on. So I don't know how they calculate his time, but anyways, we have a few more of these hearings, revocations with the new board where we'll go back in the past. Let me know in the comment section if you like that I do this, if you prefer I show just a partial of the beginning hearing versus the entire thing. But I don't know if there's anything else I want to say that I'm missing. So with that, I'll let you go.
What's up out there, fans? Like the videos, share them, see if you can get them out there. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon on stage and we'll rock it out. Just remember, you know, you'll be seeing a guy with a big hat, 1970 model resistol, old school. That's the way I like to roll. There again, just get in touch with me via Facebook. There again, I can't get in touch with, you know, I can't return everybody's message, so please be patient. But it does help me. It does give me the drive to keep going and make my fans happy, because that's what I want to do.